this is, don't worry. Actually, I've seen that a number of times that, you write CISO in Google and you get back Cisco survey. So yeah, I'm definitely not working for that company. And by the way, for the guys who were this morning and saw me take off the shirt, I'm not going to do this again, okay? Because I have only this one, so I have to disappoint you. This is not going to happen. No other exciting stuff. But maybe some exciting results from the survey that we did with security managers and the things we might have learned, or we think we have learned from them about how you can manage your information security, and also learn a little bit about what others do and see in the field currently happening. Maybe a quick question. Who of you is a security manager here in the room? 1, 2, 3. A little bit? Okay, half, kind of. So this is for the people who raised their hands, and for these who didn't raise their hands but who have a manager and you want to maybe explain why application security is important to your manager. This slide is just a quick one, why I'm in the room. So I've done for OWASP, we have launched this CISO survey project about a year ago. I also work a lot with CISOs and advise them in my day job. I mean, I have to earn a living. Good. So before I go into the survey, we have 2 projects that are interesting for Chief Information Security Officers. One is the CISO Guide that has been, the key author for that was Marco Morana. These 2 projects are like sister projects. So the team is quite overlapping, and what we learn in the one, we put in the next, and vice versa. And the other one is the CISO survey report, which we see on the top. I would say if you look at it, the guide is like a strategic part where you know how to do things, and the CISO survey report is the tactical intelligence about what kind of things you might want to do, or what's currently hot among other security managers. The methodology we had was basically we developed a survey, we sent it out to a larger community. There's always a question about bias, about selection bias when you send this to managers, and we received over 100 replies. We sent it not only within the OWASP community. In fact, most of the people we addressed were outside of the OWASP community. So, although still there is a certain bias because it's biased by the people we can reach, it is not kind of an inward-looking survey that was only about OWASP people. The opposite would be true. So we sent that out, and we followed by some selective personal interviews, and then we collected, compiled all of this, and this is the result that you're going to see now. We are currently in phase 3, which is basically we are revising the questions we did a year ago, and then we're going to send it out again. Go to phase 1 again. Good. So, cyber attacks ahead. But the question is, from where are they coming from? And one of the things we ask people is, do you see rather more external threats or internal ones? You might remember that actually a couple of years ago, most security managers were quite concerned about the insider threat. So we found that an interesting question, and quite interesting for me, like 85% saw the main threat, so external threats on the rise, increasing quite dramatically. While for internal threats, this is pretty stable. So there's a certain shift in the perception where your threats are coming from. A second thing we looked at is also, what's the main area of risk? I mean, if you look at organizations today, what do they have? I mean, you have firewalls, antivirus, anti-malware, and then you have some application security investments. Personally, I'm sometimes stunned by the fact that actually I sometimes have the feeling there's more money spent here than in application security. I'm not sure whether that kind of resonates with what you experience. But it seems like that the main areas of risk, managers recognize that actually this is now moving towards application security. So if you are kind of thinking about what you should do, you should probably take a look at your balance between these two areas because at least, oops, why is this? No, sorry. I should be more gentle with my mouse. Because this is, why is this? This shouldn't move automatically. Okay. Because this is definitely more important currently as a risk source than infrastructure. And we not only asked them what's the situation right now, but we were also wondering, okay, how is this evolving over time? So do we see like, oh, this is kind of stable or is something increasing? And again, here we asked, blue is increase, red is same, and yellow is decrease. So for application security, they see quite a change in threats increasing. So 2/3 of the managers saw that actually application security threats are increasing. While for infrastructure-related threats, this is more, the majority was more like, okay, this is fairly stable. By the way, if you have questions, you can also ask them during the presentation, so we don't have to wait. Or if you disagree, I'm fine with that too. Yes?
Good.
You disagree?
No, not quite. How many surveys have you actually sent out?
We sent out, well, hundreds, and the question is more what we received back. And, or?
I'm trying to work out whether the 100 is actually.
Yes. No, we sent out about maybe 1,000 and we got back about 100. So.
Was the survey targeted? We are just sending out field by other targeting the companies?
The question was whether we targeted specific companies or whether we just sent something out into the internet ether. Is that the question?
Yes.
We did not target specific companies, but we targeted specifically chief information security officers. So there is a number of conferences that specifically target this group. And we had presentations there. We had personal networks in these areas, so we leveraged that. Not only me, but there's a group of people. We also sent this out through OWASP. We also sent this out to large industry organizations and asked, okay, could you send this to your CISO and ask him whether he could reply? Okay, brilliant. Thanks a lot for the questions. That makes it much more interesting. So I would say for statistical significance, actually I feel quite confident with that one because the standard deviation is, well, I think this is still quite okay. Maybe standard deviation 5%. Yeah, well, beyond that, of course, we also asked them, what do you see as the 5 sources of risk? So kind of first we looked at external, internal, application versus infrastructure, and then we thought, okay, what's actually your problem? Yeah? And interestingly, when I talk in my business with managers, often you hear, oh, I don't have money, yada, yada, yada. Yeah? So I was very curious whether that would be number 1. As you can see, it was not number 1. Lack of budget is only number 4. So their number 1 with quite significant distance was lack of awareness of security issues. And then some source code, inadequate testing, and then of course budget and staffing. So these are the things they see as their top 5 sources of risk. Yes, please.
Would you say?
We did not have a second slot where you could say lack of understanding. So I could imagine that many people might have seen them as the same. So the question was, did we distinguish between lack of understanding and lack of awareness? Yeah, and no, we did not distinguish. So Actually, these are actually the answers people could choose. And there was, of course, it was not only 5, there was a list of about 15 possible choices. I'm sorry?
Lack of understanding wasn't one of them.
No, lack of understanding was not one of them. Though from a manager perspective, I mean, I work with these guys also in daily life. I think they probably see this as the same. Yeah, I know it's not the same, obviously, yeah, but people may perceive it.
I guess our experience is that
Yes, yes. So this lack of awareness, yeah, would imply it's more, do people understand there's a problem? That's awareness. Yeah, but we did not ask for, after they are aware of it, do they understand what they are doing? Yeah, so we first asked them, okay, what's kind of the sources of your risk? What's your problem? And now we are thinking about, okay, what are you doing about it? So what is your, what do you invest? Where do you invest? Where do you put your money? And we asked them first, okay, what aspects of your annual investment are going in infrastructure and in application security? And we didn't put them in financial direct relationship, but we first wondered, okay, which one is actually increasing? Because organizations may be very different. I mean, some have probably much more need for infrastructure, but we were more interested in the trend. And that I found reasonably interesting, that actually application security, they see there's more risks from applications, and they also see they want to do more investment in application security. Compared to infrastructure security is more stable, and equally is the investment more stable. So it's kind of reinforcing what we saw before. It's like the investment is the answer to the risk. The investment is the answer to the threats. And of course, then we ask, okay, so if you have your investment plans, what are your top priorities? So where do you want to put your money? And maybe where do you want to talk with your manager, whether you should put your money there? And there actually, again, quite strong was security awareness and training. So this actually, in this case, includes understanding. And that was quite significantly clear as position number 1 in the report. Secure development lifecycle, testing, of course, application layer vulnerability management stuff, and code review. So relatively common, but I found it, for example, quite encouraging for my personal view that awareness was number 1 of their priorities where they're going to invest going forward into the future. And we also asked them, okay, so probably you have something like a roadmap or a strategy. Actually, most people didn't. Or they had something and they didn't thought it's still adequate. So only about 1 in 4 believe their current application security strategy adequately addresses new risks like mobile, bring your own device, Web 2.0 and something like that. Which I found a little bit, I mean, you could, people might want to modernize or kind of review their strategy. And another thing we looked at is how long is the time horizon for your strategy, for your roadmap. There were some quite exciting outliers, like 3 months, or, I mean, this is very short planning. If you imagine, you do a plan 3 months and then you do a plan again. And another interesting outlier were like 5 years. I mean, in 5 years, I have no idea where the world's going to be in 5 years in terms of technology. But you saw quite a strong center of gravity in the range of 1 year or 2 years. So I would say the median, as you can see, is 1 year. And you have quite some people who do 2 years. We found this in so far interesting because we try to correlate this also with whether you have a better chance of getting investments. And I'm speaking about correlation, not causality. So we are not sure whether one thing leads to the other, but we could see, we looked at what gave people a better chance for making investments, for increasing investment in application security. We looked at, do they have a CISO, what's kind of the level of the person, do they have maybe different dependencies on their strategy, whether it's higher or lower in application or infrastructure, and all these things did not show significant changes. Even when we looked for whether they had a security breach, we didn't find a significant indicator. I mean, there's often this anecdotal evidence that you encounter that people say, oh, we had a breach and now we have to invest more. So we didn't see a significant statistical evidence for that. But that might be due to we don't have enough data yet. However, we saw a small benefit on, which was significant statistically, if you have a 2-year strategy, that you have a better chance of getting an increase in security investment. And we found that interesting, and we have a hypothesis why this is the case. The hypothesis is if you go into a normal budget cycle, you go in and your manager says, well, you know what, for this year the budget is X, Y, Z. And you can start to negotiate, but basically you can't really move a lot. So the counter move from the CISO perspective is then to say, well, you know what, okay, I can see that we can't put it in this year, but we can actually already put it in year 2. And because we have the strategy of 2 years, so we already plan it for year 2. So that means next year, when you go into the same negotiation, you can say, well, actually, we already budgeted this last year, that we're going to have that this year. So you're coming in with an advantageous position in the budget negotiation. I had that conversation with a couple of CISOs, and they said, well, yeah, that might be the case, but we have not verified that based on statistical data. I mean, we see at the moment there's a correlation, and that is one of the explanations we have. So here, for example, you see this is basically a data set for just 2 years. This is for increase, this is for decrease, so you're quite resistant against decreases of your security investment. While if you go for the whole population, which would be blue, you see that, yeah, you have maybe a 10% better chance of getting higher investments, of increasing your investments, which is not too bad if you're a CISO and you desperately need some money. Yeah. Another thing is, of course, we also, yes, sorry, there's a question.
So, did you have a follow-up question?
No, we did not ask the development teams. Or do you mean whether we've had a follow-up question with the CISO?
I mean, some industries,
I'm sorry, I didn't get your point. So you mean whether there was investment outside of the view of the CISO?
normal R&D budget to invest.
Yeah, we did not distinguish between these two areas. So we asked the CISO, does your organization invest more? In the hope that the CISO would have some visibility into what others do. That might not be the case, but yeah. On the other hand, the chance is good that he has some idea, because usually you have to justify security investments, and quite heavily. Yeah, so we also looked at breaches. What's kind of the effect of a breach on an organization? And as I said before, from a statistical correlation, we didn't find much. However, it was quite funny. We asked the whole population, after a breach, do you invest more? Do you spend more after a breach? 30% said yes, and the others said, well, actually no. We're not going to change. But when we kind of narrowed down the population and only looked at the people who actually had a breach, then over half recognized, yes, we're going to spend more. Probably because they felt the pain and went through the process. So they know how painful a breach can be and what's the typical consequence. Why do I find this useful? it might be an indicator that security managers are underestimating the effect of a breach on an organization. It might be that, yes, you haven't seen a breach yet, so you think, well, of course we wouldn't change because we are comfortable with what we are doing, but the moment you had a breach, you suddenly wise up, so you learn. So it might be then there's an indicator for the people who haven't been breached yet, or who just don't know yet, that maybe you're under-investing. And if you talk with your managers, maybe that's a conversation you want to have. Okay, so that was about investing. Now we are also looking about, okay, how do you manage your organizations? What kind of things are you doing? How do you build security in, or is just everybody driving by and kind of passing around your security controls and just ignoring your organization? Or for example, one of the key questions we had was, do you use an application security management system? Which is a little bit, or maturity model. This is a little bit inspired because at OWASP we have OpenSAM, and I personally also believe if you want to write a good security program, you should know where you are. Because only if you know where you are and you basically have an understanding, then you can write a good roadmap where you want to be. A little bit surprising to me was if you look at, we had yes and fully formally implemented, yes without verification, and currently in process. If you take all these three together, it's only 25%. So that means 75% are not using a maturity model, don't benchmark themselves, and basically are not really formally or kind of looking in a structured way at where they are, at the own quality of their security systems. However, there is one kind of glimmer of hope at the horizon, and that's these guys. 40% were saying, no, we don't have it, but we're considering doing it in the next 12 months. So it will be interesting to see whether that's actually true. I mean, you can consider a lot, yeah? But I have still some hope in these guys that they may move here. And that we see an uptick in people actually looking inside, analyzing where they are, and then having a structured approach in improving their security. So what other challenges do people see? Again, I was kind of expecting, oh, budget is so problematic. But quite clearly it was that availability of skilled resources was the key challenge of improving your security programs, of delivering and improving security for an organization. So yeah, budget is on number 4, but it was very clear that people don't have the skilled resources to actually get the stuff on the road. Yeah, there's money, but it's kind of, you don't have the resources you want to use. Yes, please.
They're in order.
Yes. This is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Do you have a rough idea of exactly how much above the rest of them? I mean, was it a very, very clear?
It was not only just ahead of number 2. So this was a clear ranking, especially the first 3. Mm-hmm. Actually, yeah, the first 3 was quite clear. These 2 were, you could have done the scoring a little bit different, then you might have had a different result. So to give you some insight, we use a scoring for this because people can rate between 1 and 5. And we basically weighted number 5 more than just linearly above number 4. But we tried 3 different scoring schemes, like weight 1 maybe double, 1 50% more and something. And this order was consistent across different weighting schemes. So it's quite stable. Except on number 4 and 5, they were very close to each other. But these are quite clear. By the way, the whole report is public, of course, and open and free, and you can download it, of course. And the slides will be available afterwards. I find this interesting because, I mean, we are here at the university, so I hope that availability of skilled resources, I mean, this is the place, okay? This is the time. And equally for us as an industry, it shows that we really have to improve and teach people more about this. Skilled resources does not only mean pen testers, that means developers, testers who are aware of security. This ranking is slightly different. So your question actually would apply to this ranking. We asked them, okay, which of the OWASP projects did you find most useful? And just as a disclaimer firsthand, we did not give them a list of 160 projects that we have at OWASP, because kind of no brain would really feel comfortable in going through that list and choose 5 and rank them. However, it was absolutely clear that the OWASP top 10 was leading by far. Okay, this was kind of totally clear, unquestionable, while the other 4 were kind of on the same level. So it's like if you would build a tower, this is like the top of the tower, and these are about halfway. And then you have a number of other topics which are maybe 1/4 of the tower. Yes, please.
In the last one or not?
Testing guide was in the list, yes.
Oh.
Testing guide was in the list, but it's
Was
not.
in the list, but not in this top 5.
Yeah, it did not make it to the top 5. Yes.
What about application security verification?
Yes.
It was on the list.
Yes. Yes, they were on the list. Well, I mean, if you have top 5, only 5 can make it, okay? And to be clear, these are security managers. So they were thinking about, okay, what is useful from our perspective? That doesn't necessarily mean it's the perspective of the development manager or of the testing manager. For example, this one is good from a manager perspective because it gives them secure coding policies. And CISOs tend to think in policies and governance. Yeah, development guide is maybe, yeah, you can think about. OWASP top 10, yeah, awareness tool. And obviously you also have a bias that people didn't know everything, okay? You have a lot of people who just don't know this stuff, and then, yeah, they can't really judge. Another thing we asked, this is more kind of internally in OWASP, but I find it also worthwhile to share. We asked, what do you find useful from OWASP? So what do you expect? What kind of, what significance does OWASP material have for you? And it was quite clear, awareness is very useful for them. Code development guidelines, policy, testing, so that would include testing guide. However, for example, going to conferences, yeah, is useful, but not as useful as the awareness material. So yeah, we are happy to be here at the conference, but well, yeah. What else? Yeah, 2 more things. As part of, we were also wondering what is actually part of an information security management program. So what do CISOs see as part of their role, and what do they tend to just ignore? And I mean, it's kind of obvious, you have requirements, risk management, most people kind of 3 and 4. I was even surprised that it's only 75%. The red one is what's planned to be in there, and then no plans to implement is the green one. So I was even surprised that it's only 80% or 78% in these 2 areas. However, what I found quite astonishing is use of as SDLC. Only 48%, only half of people see this as part of their information security management. I mean, personally, I thought, well, actually everybody should have that. I mean, but yeah. Yeah, I know I'm wrong. I know. The lady in the front is kind of shaking her head. Yes, I know. I'm an idealist. I'm a naive person. However, so this was quite interesting to kind of understand, okay, what are others doing? And for example, threat modeling is really not in play. And we can preach, but yeah, it is not really widely adopted. While here on the top, you see some stuff that you can do. Yes?
Would you say that's more because
I think these are two questions. One is SDLC, the other one is threat modeling.
And I'm seeing there's a very big sort of trend towards
Yes.
more frontline development in the lower.
Yes.
I'm worried about it purely because CISO.
Yeah.
And then concentrating on the strategy.
So the question for the live stream is the CISO maybe only looking at strategic priorities while totally ignoring the work, the real work to basically people, and don't even care and don't specify in their information security programs. From the data, I mean, there's some indication. We did not investigate deeper whether that's the source. From my personal experience, and I've been working with a lot of CISOs, like hundreds, actually, no, I don't think that's the case. It could be, but I don't think, because I think most CISOs would know if you're using a secure development lifecycle. Sorry.
So
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah, they basically, they go in, that would be a good, so the point was whether they don't have a structured approach to security management, yeah. And this is more, yeah, you do this because you kind of have to, and maybe your colleague told you to, but you don't look at all the whole value chain of security.
But these top results are patients only, for example, management or security training.
I'll be careful, the question was about information security management, so this was not only application
For
security.
example, SDLC or threat modeling are application specific.
Yes, though some organizations,
They are, as CISOs, they are not aware of
application-specific risk.
specific.
Yeah, the point might be that CISOs are not yet aware of application-specific threats. In some organizations, SDLC includes external purchasing and suppliers. So, which would then again point you that actually you should have that higher, but you don't. I've seen a number, yeah, sorry. Yes. Yes, that might be the case, yeah.
That's only really a short term.
Yeah. How do we implement the policy? You can say, I want everybody to write secure code, but then you have to show them how.
I mean, this is the sort of thing I can see startup doing in the first couple of years.
Yeah.
But when they become an established company or at CISO,
Yeah, I think, I mean, there is some truth in different things, and there's a lot of speculation you can do, obviously. I hope we will get a much larger data set with the next survey, and maybe can drill down a little bit. My personal experience, this is kind of just really anecdotal, is that actually still a number of organizations are in the process of getting their SDLC in some way better. And it's totally stunning for me when I go in and work with these companies that their SDLC is kind of more basic and doesn't really include security problems. And then you kind of see there's a lot of opportunity to improve, yeah? So, yeah. Sorry that I don't have a better answer. It's just, I present you the data as I have it. Actually, at the end, there might be, I would also very much welcome ideas from you about what other questions we should ask. Because asking the right question is quite important to get a good answer. Another one was also, we were wondering about what frameworks do people use? So for example, is ISO 27001 widely used? Which you can say it is. It's close to 50% are actually having that in use in their organization, which is not surprising. I mean, if you talk with people, it's fairly common. Then PCI DSS, well, yeah, if you touch credit card data, probably you had to go through this painful process. ETL, NIST, National Institute for Standards and Technology of the US government, COBIT, CMMI, which is a maturity model, ISF, BSIM, and you know what, then it kind of got a little bit depressing for me because OpenSAM is the OWASP maturity model, and personally I'm a big fan because it's so easy. I mean, compared to some of the other models, you kind of, in them you have to read like 200 pages and write 100 at least to get started. With OpenSAM you read like 30, 40 pages and are done in a day. So I'm kind of, well, I think we have a marketing, a promotion problem here. Still, I hope, you know, I'm an idealist, I'm an optimist, so I hope we can maybe work on that. Yes, sir.
I see the data. A lot of us have invested in BSIM or OSIM. How do you interpret this slide?
Oh, okay. I mean, first of all, I would say what I interpret is definitely ISO 27001 is well established.
Right.
So if you're going in an organization that doesn't have anything, that seems to be useful to some degree, or people require it. And for the others here, BSIM and so on, CMMI, actually I think this is, how would you say, the race is still open. Sorry, yes? Yes.
So it's not like OpenSAM is more or less reduced to that.
Yeah. Yes.
So that are quite different in scope. Strong impression on it. Like there are frameworks in use, but you can't. Targets.
Yes.
There are things that are the
Yeah.
same, but quite different parts of it that are not.
That was not an exclusive choice, just to be clear. You could tick all of them if you wanted to. So, I mean, you can be very much right. It could, for example, another indicator could be that most organizations are reasonably okay with the basics. You know, getting ISO, getting PCI DSS, kind of doing your base homework. But they haven't really dabbled into maturity models or application security yet.
It's the same.
Yes, yes, yes. It kind of, it fits with,
Application.
they have not a structured approach, or their structured approach is not sophisticated enough, not mature enough. That, yeah, the data kind of supports itself, yeah. Yes.
So I think this slide is similar. Talk about areas and but then goes into areas that are below the radar for him because they're more tactical implementation. That slide is a similar challenge. It starts off asking about things he knows, 2001, but things that he probably
Yes, I would, so the point was of the gentleman in the front, I'm just for the mic, was that the CISO maybe is not going into the tactical doing things, rather on the governance area.
Yeah, exactly. So there may be code review going on, maybe an SDLC. Large organisation might not. Doesn't mark it as currently in use.
So the CISO might not know that you do code review and you do it anyway. I'm not so sure about whether there's, well, I mean, there's stuff going on that the CISO doesn't know, for sure. It's more usually the stuff that you don't want to tell him. I mean, the good news tend to make it. The bad news, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of hypothesis we could, and speculation. I mean, it's consistent, yeah. You're right, the two data sets are consistent in that regard. one thing maybe from our conversation now would be to say application security hasn't made it yet on the desk of the CISO. I mean, they want to, I mean, at the very beginning of the presentation, you saw they know we have to invest more in application security. So they know that. But it seems it hasn't trickled down on actually doing stuff. Okay, so one last one was we were also asking, okay, do you actually kind of look at quality and effectiveness? Do you assess your own quality of your security programs? And I'm sorry that I think the characters are too small on the screen. So some of them, actually quite a number of them, do at least some internal self-assessment. We did not quantify whether that's kind of, it happens once in a lifetime or once a year or whatever. But yeah, we wanted to be a little bit open in that. A number of them still have external assessment. And maybe for that, it might be useful to be aware that I would say this was more larger organizations who were submitting to that survey. So, for example, we did have quite a large part of the population was very large corporations, and only very few were smaller organizations. Code review, assessments, and well, there's quite some people who just don't do assessments at all. So yeah, we implement stuff and then we don't measure. Good, or not so good. Let me see. Oh, that. Yeah, and that is then whether you do that externally, so verification of the security of external partners. So if you buy stuff from someone else, do you actually verify what their security posture is? Because you use their software, so they are part of your risk, of your security problems. Some of them do, by your organization's application security or procurement functions. Some rely on self-assessment by the partner. So basically you ask them, please assess yourself and tell me what you think. Yeah. Some use independent external assessment. So that would be like an audit. And then some just trust people. Yeah, like about 1 in 4 trusts. They say, well, if we trust our suppliers, we don't do any security assessment and we don't ask them. So I find this quite interesting because if you think about how deep people are integrated with their suppliers today, this could be a blind spot for organizations. Yes?
This is with regard.
This is actually in general, so infrastructure and application. So the question was about verification of security of external partners, providers, and contractors. You don't believe that answer?
No, I think they might have answered it thinking.
Why do you not believe that
Because
data?
it's core to.
You say it is core to the CISO community to verify the security of your suppliers.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That's about
I can only tell you what we received.
Yeah,
If you like, you can actually have access to the.
revising the question.
Yeah, we should revise. Maybe we should clarify the question, and I'm actually very much looking forward to feedback and input, which will be on the next slide, if you want. So first, before the next slide, I just wanted to give attribution. So we had a number of people who wrote the report, and then we had a lot of helping hands who helped us write the questionnaire, translate it into different languages, send it across different countries and regions. And here's the link to the two documents, the guide and the survey. And yeah, that's the call for volunteers. So we are currently in the process. There will be a CISO guide version 2. And of course, we are sending out the next CISO survey. We hope to do that in July, so we don't have much time to add a lot. We're currently in the process of revising the questionnaire. But if you have ideas, they would be very much welcome. If you like to take part in the project, absolutely. We would love that. If you don't want to take active part, but if you want to be kept up to date, then, for example, if you want to receive the next release of the CISO survey, then you can register here at this URL, and we will send you the questionnaire and only information about the next CISO survey release. So that way you will get an active information. Yep. And yeah, questions, kind of the questions I have to you. What kind of information do you think would be useful? So what kind of questions should we ask this time for 2014? And also, maybe to trigger you, if you could ask 1,000 CISOs, because I hope we get that this year, one question, what would it be? What would you want to know? Or any questions from you, of course, to me. So, please. We have 2 more minutes, I think. Yes?
OWASP in response. How do we get them from no? I think when they look, my experience is
Mm-hmm.
and when they saw BSIM, they get incredibly overwhelmed.
Yes.
Right? They say this is the 117 effective habits of highly effective people instead of the 7.
Yes, yes, yes.
I know it's not meant to be a shortcut, but
Yeah.
I think there's a chasm between no structure and I would love to see us look for like.
Yeah, I mean, what OWASP has with OpenSAM in this case is kind of a small agile structure.
Right.
You don't have to do the 117th good habits for security management. You can have actually just 7. And
But we have that already. I guess my point is, how do we better advertise that to people?
I don't know. Yes.
And the number one issue.
The lack of skills? Yes. Actually, that is something that we are looking at OWASP right now. So the OWASP board decided at the beginning of this year that as a strategic goal for OWASP will be to tackle that, to develop and roll out development training, secure development training in a wider area. So kind of provide training material for free, maybe even do video training and so on. So this is one of the strategic goals for OWASP. So we very much see that as something we can tackle. With the promotion, yes, it would be nice to do it, but I'm not sure, I don't know yet the best answer how to tackle it. Okay, people are leaving, so I'm probably over time. Oh, I'm still okay.
Just about.
Yeah, just about.
Have you tried to analyze this data, comparing different types of organizations, for example, bank versus software vendor, or versus application as a service vendor?
The question is whether we split the data and sliced it depending on organization type. The data set was not big enough to slice it and still have statistical significance. So if we get this year more people, then hopefully we can do so. But in this case, it wouldn't be prudent to do so. Then, yeah, thank you very much for your attendance, for your questions. Please join the mailing list. Thanks a lot.